How's it going, everybody? This is Aaron the Pedantic, and I'm joined here by a bunch of dudes from the Pedantic Discord server who went with me to North Texas RPG Con. I guess we'll start with Oz. You can kind of say who you are, a little bit about yourself, and we can move around. You can be as brief or as long-winded as you like. Since Prince isn't here, I can say that.
I'm Oz. I started playing D&D in 1982 with the Mulvey box set. Been playing for a long time and started playing with Aaron in his OSE sandbox game that he started a couple of years ago.
All right. EOTB?
I'm EOTB. I've been playing 1E for longer than I can remember. Got involved with Knights and Knaves a long time ago and Osric, and have been running games at conventions and supporting 1E ever since.
Heck yeah. All right, Gus?
Yeah, I've been playing war games and board games for all my life, but I just got into the adventure gaming space back in 2013. There was some small product called 5e that came out, and it was unfortunate, but anyway, got me into the space, and I discovered old school gaming very shortly after that and haven't looked back. So I've been playing a lot of advanced Dungeons and Dragons, a little bit of basic expert, a little bit of axe, kind of the things that I enjoy.
All right, and James?
Howdy. I only play 4th edition, and well, I do sometimes play Lancer, but only during Pride Month. Just kidding. I've been playing a few old school games since let's see here, since I got introduced to the Browser back in 2019. I've been designing games mostly for 5th edition since about 2018, I think. And I more recently got into the old school space. I started up a channel called Gelatinous Root. So that's my brief history with the tabletop space.
I much prefer you as a giant hick cube, if it's okay saying so.
It's a lot. Listen, it's a lot of fun. I like the persona.
All right. Well, I mean, really, we're just here to talk about what the con was like this last year, and so some of y'all have been going for quite a long time, though.
I think he's probably got the longevity and the veteran status amongst us for sure.
I think the first one I went to was 2013, maybe 2012. I can't remember, but it was right around that time. But yeah, I've gone to quite a few North Texas cons, and I mean, every one of them is great, so I keep going back.
All right. Well, so what would y'all say was the like shining moment from this year? I guess Oz, what was a shining moment for you?
I was at the shining moment that actually impressed me the most about the whole thing on the con was how much effort the hotel put into staff for the con itself. I mean, you've got guys that are playing games 12 hours a day, and essentially they have waiters and waitresses taking your order all day long so that you don't even have to leave the table to, get something to eat, get something to drink. I was really impressed with how much effort the Westin put into supporting the con.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That was really cool. I was kind of surprised. It's like, there's kind of these ladies that keep coming up here. What are they doing? Are they want to see what kind of killing we got going on, or? So
the interesting part about that is I don't think that's the Westin. I think that's the con organizers that actually recruit the staff that will then go place those orders with the Westin and then bring you your food. That. Yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, those ladies have been, at least some of them. I mean, there's always some turnover, but I know at least a couple of those ladies have been doing that at the con for as long as I've been going.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, 10 years. How would you say the con's changed over the years?
I mean, we've moved hotels a couple times, but honestly, it hasn't changed all that much, and that's probably why I like it so much. I mean, it's a pitch perfect con for old school gaming. I mean, they allow I think pretty much any type of gaming. But I mean, the critical mass of people who are coming there because it is focused on old school gaming, and they can get the best old school gaming there. I think really of all conventions anywhere. It's really its specialty.
So do you guys do you go to a lot of cons? I mean, for me, North Texas RPG Con is really the only one I've ever gone to. So
yeah, I mean, I'm in the same area. I'm in the DFW area, and so there's quite a few cons depending on what you're into. But like I said before, I really got into adventure gaming, very much into wargaming and board gaming, and Dallas actually has one of the premier board gaming conventions called Board Game Geek Con. And it takes place in the fall in November every single year. And I would go that, like, as soon as I moved out here about 10 years ago, that was the first con that I was there every year basically. And it's really, really good. It's a lot bigger than North Texas, but the funny part was North Texas actually showed up on my radar because Old School Gaming was on my radar roughly at the same time. And so I was looking for cons that specifically, because I mean, you can go to board game conventions and they're going to have RPGs being played, like various types of RPGs being played everywhere. But it's always going to be 5e for the most part, no matter where you go. Maybe you get some Savage Worlds up in there, maybe some Call of Cthulhu. Generally speaking, though, it's mostly 5e tables, and I wasn't interested in that. So I was like, there's got to be convention. And I was pretty new into the old school world. So I was looking for any convention, and it just happened to be that North Texas was one of those that pops once you get in the forums. It's like, it's one of the top old school conventions. And I was like, North Texas? I'm in North Texas. So I looked it up. Sure enough, I would literally drive past that West End from work like every day on my way home on my commute. And so I dropped in. I remember dropping in just for one day. I think it was in like 2015, and walked around, and was like, this looks really cool. This looks real cool. But I'd committed to that Board Game Geek Con for a while, so I was doing that, and young family and everything, and just moved out. I didn't have the time to go, do the whole multiple conventions a year scenario. Maybe in my retirement I'll be able to do that, but yeah. So I finally got into North Texas in 2019, and it was everything I thought it would be. Plus I had some time, I actually had some old school games under my belt for about 3 years at that point. So it was fun to go and have an idea of what I liked, get into some games that I enjoyed. And I think that's what stands out. I just don't think you see a roster of games, old school games, in that number, as many and as good as you get at North Texas. And then I've heard this commented before, on the forums and the Discords, but the quality of player that you will run into in North Texas is really high in comparison to just your average Joe RPG 5e player out there that you're going to go bump into in every con. Like, they are engaged. They play the style well. They've probably played it for 30 or 40 years. Right. And even the new guys, the younger guys, they're very into it. That's why they're at the con, and they've, been playing nothing but it for at least 5 to 10. So I don't know, that it just stands out as like another caliber. The caliber of average table, I think, in North Texas is above anything I've seen anywhere else. So
EOTB, pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to probably as many Gary Cons almost as I have North Texas Con, and I mean, Gary Con is great. Don't get me wrong. I definitely wouldn't advise anybody not to go to Gary Con if they're an old school player, because I mean, there is there's kind of a con within a con at Gary Con. So that, I mean, there's a critical mass of old school play there that that persists, and you don't ever have to leave it while you're at Gary Con. But at the same time, I mean, Gary Con is ultimately Gary Con would be thrilled if it could grow into Gen Con. And so it's just a different feel. I mean, North Texas really feels like a celebration of old school gaming. Gary Con feels like a con that's growing into a normal con that wants to make sure that there is an old school gaming contingent present, but it's trying to celebrate whatever is going to bring the most people to the con. I guess that would be the difference in tone. But I mean, I have different friends who go to each. I mean, there's always people who only go to the closer cons to them. So I mean, there's like a whole cluster of guys that I only see when I go to Gary Con, and we have an amazeballs time. And there's another cluster of guys that I only see when I go to North Texas. And the same. It's just an amazing time.
Yeah, I'd say that so this is only my second time going, and unfortunately, I'm never able to do the whole like several days. I can do Saturday and maybe Sunday just because of my my day job, and just limitations on when I can take off. Um, but just from my conversations with Bad Mike, it seems like and really just the other people present as well. It seems like the great focus is just, we just want to keep doing what we're doing. We don't want this to become some like gigantic, humongous affair, where we're, raking in all the dough or anything like that. It's really just people wanting to get together every year, see their old friends, and just celebrate the games that they love. That's the vibe I get from everybody.
I was really surprised at the really wide range of older games that were being played at the tables. I mean, you had games like Gangbusters and Top Secret, Star Frontiers, and MERP that, I just wouldn't expect that there would be that many people that were still playing those games. And they were all well represented at the con.
Yeah, I'd say that's number one for that con. Everybody's there to play games. That's the purpose of the con. It's not like a spectacle. It's not to buy product. It's not really to sell product. Yeah, you'll have a few vendors that are hoping to move some product, but by and large, everybody there is there to game and to hang out with friends. So it's tough to duplicate that. So
yeah, you know that it's quality because there's no cosplaying there.
Correct. You won't see anybody. Well, you won't see anybody dressed up. Let's put it that way.
I saw somebody cosplaying Zeb Cook while I was there. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was very subtle.
It was subtle, though. It wasn't super authentic because he had on closed-toed shoes. The real Zeb Cook, he wears sandals.
It was just a thing that it was just really good that Raji decided not to cosplay while he was there.
I was a little disappointed. I was disappointed with a little bit more modesty. Yeah, I was a little disappointed as a fully clothed Raji. Like I would have liked to see at least one game shirtless, just shirtless. Like pants, that's fine. But
if the con would have been in Austin, that probably would have happened. But
that's
That's
true.
Yeah. I don't know that the West End would have tolerated it.
Maybe it's like a new event that they could add to the con. It's called the Raji Streak.
Please don't give them ideas.
Here's a question from Bill that maybe EOTB or maybe you, Gus, could answer. You mentioned older games being run. Is there a scaled sign up for games at the con? Platinum goes first, gold second, third, a silver third, etc.
Yeah, I can fill this, and you can fill in anything I miss. But no, I think actually I really like how North Texas does it. So what'll happen is they will announce that they're going to start soliciting refs and game masters to submit their games, probably mid to end of December, I believe. And then they'll collect those for several months. I think all the way through to March to mid-March. And then they will post all those up as they come in to their tabletop.events site. And then on the 15th of March, they open up half the seats. So basically every DM and ref will they'll put into their game how many seats are going to be available total for their games. And then the con will release half of those seats on the 15th of March for purchase. So basically for $5, and it goes towards the con and paying for the con. For $5, you can basically sign up a month early, in effect, for the half of those seats that they've opened. And then a month later, they'll open up the rest, or all of them. It just depends on the demand for the games, right? For that particular DM's table. They'll open up all the rest of the seats on the 15th, first come, first serve. So there's no priority. There's no you spend more money and you get to pick first. You buy a certain ticket or a certain level. Like it's general admission. But to help the con out, they basically open up half the tickets, half the seats for each individual game. You can buy it a month in advance for $5 to sit down at that table. And a lot of the celebrity games, there's lots of like, quote unquote, like, TSR employees or celebrities and people that want to sit in games. So those will sign up pretty quick, and, it helps the con make money, but then they open it up to everybody.
There we go. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of games, what would y'all just maybe talk about some of the best moments or most interesting things that happened in the games that you're playing?
Yeah, we were. For me, it was probably the Sunday night game that I closed out with, where I was playing in it. So Keith Sloan goes by Wellerin, but he's written some modules for the Advanced Adventure lines. He was running a pickup game out of the Knights and Names boardroom to close out the con, and we had a great group of guys. There was probably like 8 or 10 guys, I can't remember, but he was running his Forgotten Grottos of the Sea Lords module, I think it is. And we had this. We explored around, and we ended up going into this Temple of Dagon, which ended up being a gigantic, massive fight. But role playing games, it's D&D is those moments within it, right? I mean, and so we get down there, and Jeff Talanian was playing with us, and he was playing an Elven Fighter magic user, and so he cast a charm person, and so there's this whole thing where he charms this Dagonite fish, basically like a Kuo-Tuan guard, and there's this whole interplay where he's trying to convince, he convinces the guard that we're his friends, and the other guard is looking at him like, what the hell, and Keith is playing this awesome, and so we ask him to go ahead and we bring up a contingent, like to welcome us and everything, right? And so his friend Kuo-Tuan is all happy, and the one who doesn't trust us goes down, and he brings back all these guys, and in the meantime we tell the Kuo-Tuan, who's our friend, that we're going to play a neat trick, and so we all cast invisibility, 10-foot radius, and get invisible, and he's like, oh yeah, this will be great, and so then they come up, and we of course mercilessly slaughter everyone, and he ends up freaking out, and so he gets held, and then Keith is like, as you're killing all of his friends, you notice a single tear coming down his cheek in sadness, and so we were like, oh, okay, this is cool, and then we go down to the main temple, and of course the whole fight erupts, and and then it became this running joke as he's held up at the top of the stairs, and he's watching us just slaughter dozens of his people, that like all these tears start coming down, and we start making jokes about the flood of tears, and I mean, it's those little moments that everybody's laughing. It becomes a running joke. I mean, at the end of the combat, Keith and I had been giving each other shit all night long, in good, we're good friends, so it was all in fun. And he says, okay, I'm gonna. He was trying to. I was playing a paladin, and he was trying to get me, right, in good fun, and he kept on failing because paladins have all these bonuses and stuff, but he forgot that he had given me a ring of free action on the pre-gen, so he thought, I finally got him. He goes, I'm casting, the evil high priest is casting a whole person on you, and I'm like, okay. He goes, roll your save, and I'm like, all right, and so I roll it, and it rolled completely bad, and he's like, all right, you're held, you're paralyzed, and I go, no, because as I'm rolling my save, I rub the ring of free action on my cheek and go, oh, guess you don't got me this time, and he's just like, got him, right? Like, totally got him in that moment. That's the type of stuff that is just so much fun.
That's honestly something I don't partake in quite enough, is just the back and forth bullshit, between DM and player. I need to be a little bit more adversarial, I would say.
Yeah, I mean when you're all good friends and you all know it's in fun, and you're going to go out and drink some scotch after the game, and you've been playing with each other for years. It's just like shit talking between friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, pretty much. So I had a nice mix of kind of public games. Just I don't know anybody at the table, but I'm getting the point now, being my third con, that I have there's a lot of familiar faces that you start to see as you. Regardless, even if you just sign up for a random game. So there's names that I'll recognize. And I got the opportunity this year to play in a C1 game, which was a lot of fun. And Taco John, one of the guys from Black Blade Publishing, he ran it. It was a good group. The funny part is when I signed up for it, I thought it was the normal 4-hour block. Most games, the cons are 4-hour blocks, and so I just assumed that it was. And the night that that evening, I'm getting ready for the game, and I look at my calendar, go get ready for it, and I notice, oh, this is a 6-hour block game. And I'm like, okay, so we're in for it, and that's not even close to enough time to get through that module. But it's been on the bucket list. It's one of those classic, first edition TSR, tournament modules that I've always just really wanted to get after, and it was so much fun. Had a great time, great table. We didn't get anywhere near as far as we wanted to, but just the overall experience of trying to complete things, seeing some of those classic set pieces in that game, giving names. I love giving NPC names to, like, just from guys quipping about, oh yeah, that's gonna be Buddy the Elf or whatever, right? Like, even though that's not actually what the name is, like the DM tells you the name is, but the way they interacted and the way that a particular player starts calling them, I just love changing that up, and it just adds, like he was saying, you just have those running jokes throughout the rest of the module whenever that particular NPC pops their head up again. So you're cracking jokes, you're having a good time. You're playing fast and loose, and it's all about, getting into shenanigans. So that's fun. And then I was also fortunate enough to be in he ran a pickup game. That was Friday night, I believe, in his mega dungeon. And there were 17 or 18 people at that table. And you would think that would be a slog, but it was easily one of the best games I've ever played in. Wildly fast. I don't know. You can correct me. I think we covered over 30 rooms, maybe more, over that evening. And we just saw crazy stuff, crazy hijinks. And when you have a room full of that many people with that much energy enjoying the game that much, there's very few gaming experiences that can compete when you're playing something like that. And so, yeah, it's just... there's nothing that I've experienced. Like, I've played in some really good war games. I've played in a lot of board gaming cons and had some really good times. Those are fun. An experience like that with good friends that you've been playing games with for a while, and you have that many of them in the same room with a really good DM that knows how to do it and has been doing it for 4 decades or whatever. It's very, very difficult to find something that's going to match that. So that's another reason to go to a con, because you can sit down at a table with 15 people and play a game. That's probably not going to be possible in your, normal day to day. So
I would like to second that 15, 16 players at a time is impressive.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, Oz was in that bad boy. It was a good time.
Oh, Oz, you were too?
Yeah, I was in that game too. I couldn't believe that he handled it as smoothly as he did.
Well, thank you. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, everybody there knows what they're doing, which always helps, right? I mean, it's not like you're going through the basics. I mean, there's 2 types of con games where you're demoing, for people who don't really know the game, and then there's the ones where, I mean, everybody already knows what they're doing, and I mean, you just put the pedal to the floor, and you are just ripping through it, and it plays at the speed of thought. And that group was great. Gus is right. They went through probably 30 rooms or so. And it's a lot of fun because you do get to cover a lot of ground and have a lot of experiences. And then everybody has that shared experience. So those are some special moments.
What are some of the things that happened in that game, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, there was a particular room that I enjoyed. So there was what I'm going to call the stripper pole room, and basically what it was, we were coming down a hallway, and to like a single direction there were basically poles coming from the middle of the room straight down, and then the other side, we came in from one side of the room where it was just like wall to the right, and to the left it was open. And there was basically a 20-foot pit that dropped off. The poles were coming down from the walls, the center of the room. And then across, there was another, on our level, there was another ledge, like another path that you could walk on. And on that, I believe it was a hag.
Harpy.
What was it?
Harpy.
A harpy, that's right. It was a harpy with a corncob pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. that was basically asked us for something. It was like, hey, can you guys like do this thing? And we were in, for whatever reason at that moment, everybody was in like murder hobo stage. So 4 or 5 of us just ran out on our side of the ledge and started trying to take pot shots at the harpy. And the harpy, or the you said harpy, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it basically had a little secret compartment behind it. Ran into that secret compartment. Was like, you guys are asses. Ran in that secret compartment, pulled a switch, and it dumped basically our side of the ledge, went at a 45, dumped us into the pit 20 feet below. And we basically spent the next like 10 minutes, everybody trying to get us out with the harpy throwing stuff, like basically sending things towards us. There was the spikes at the bottom, basically. Just, it was one of those classic, like, oh, we're going to handle this harpy, no problem, with like our huge group of 15. And no, and we got handled on the stripper poles. So it was good.
I was actually shocked that anybody who actually knew E would have even bother to walk out on that ledge.
Yeah, no, it was real good. It was good. It was a fun one.
Yeah, that was good. There was another one towards the end of the night where they ran into a couple of undead. That, you know, it was a dwarf and a halfling, and their bodies were off in the corner. They were basically like sitting, you know, slumped over. They had apparently taken wounds and died sometime long ago, but they had their spirits had a dartboard set up on the other side of the room. So they walk into the room and they just see these spirits playing darts, and you know, and then once you got into the room, you could see the bodies in the corner. And it's funny because this is a room I had put in. One of the things that made the session great was that one of the players from my face-to-face game who had left and moved down to Texas, I mean, we were able to play again. And I had actually put this room in the mega dungeon specifically for him because he's one of those guys who's always trying to find someplace to rest inside the dungeon, right? And so I was like, all right, well, I'll put this little thing in here just for him because these spirits, they're not actually hostile, but they don't want you to interrupt their dart game, right? So like you walk in, you start trying to talk to them, and this dwarf and this halfling are like, don't interrupt their dart game. You know, you can stay if you're quiet. And that's kind of like letting people know that they can rest there. And these spirits, like nobody wants to mess with these spirits. It's all tucked away in this little corner of the dungeon that he had never gone in, this guy, Ken. And so if you just make nice with them, right? Like you can, like, you've got this little hideaway tucked in, you can go in there, you can rest, you can regain spells and all this stuff. So what does the party decide to do? They decide to start shooting, like right off the bat. You know, because they saw that their bodies had, you know, they had some nice armor, they had some nice weapons, there was probably some magical loot sitting there. So it's like that temptation, right? Do you want to just leave this situation be and take the benefit, or do you want to try and get some treasure? Well, they were like, we're going to get some treasure. But it was hilarious to me because Ken is sitting there, he's at this table, and I think it dawned on him at one point that this thing that he had always wanted to find had now been found at this con game, and it was being absolutely wrecked.
Yeah. It was at the end of the session, so very poor decisions were being made that late at night. Very poor. So
it was quite amusing that you can see the effect of scotch on game time decisions.
Yeah. Risk mitigation is out the window at that point, much to party's dismay. So,
but they ended up, of course, killing it and getting the treasure. But one of the other cool things about the con, so I mean, this is my mega dungeon's persistent, right? And Austin Jim Johnson, the guy who writes Scribes of Sparn modules, he was in that game, and he had a potion of polymorph self, and they realized that Dolores the harpy that Gus was talking about, you know, was back that way and everything, and there was only one way to get back, and they would have to go back past Dolores the harpy, who now obviously is going to be pissed at them. They didn't want to go through that again. And, you know, so Jim, he had this potion of polymorph self, and he ended up polymorphing self into a purple worm. Since polymorph self does give you locomotion, and they can burrow, right? So he ended up using the purple worm form to burrow out of that area outside the side of the mountain. And now he has created an entirely new entrance exit point tunnel into that level of the dungeon that I have to now go back on my maps and figure out where it is and place it, because it will now always be there.
That's awesome. So, James, we haven't been able to get too much out of you yet. So, what did you enjoy about the con? Did you play in a lot of games?
No, I didn't play in a lot of games. I had, overall, I had a really positive experience. Last year, I wasn't able to. I was in the middle of like going homeless, so I wasn't able to do anything at North Texas RPG Con. So this year was just like going around, seeing what the vibe was, meeting people from the server. That was fun, and playing in the AD&D. I think it was the Saturday night game. Is what I got to.
Which, I mean, so that was one that I did get to play in for a little bit, and I got to say that was, to me, that was really impressive. You know, I felt like Neuromancer did an awesome job. That was a pretty big table. I feel like it wouldn't what was that, like 14 or 19 or something? It was 17. I think
the number's going to keep growing the longer we get away from the con. So.
Exactly. I think
25
it was 17 or 18.
Year.
I can't remember, but next year's con it'll be 24, and,
correct.
And by the time we stop going, it'll be a packed room of 50.
Correct.
Exactly, an auditorium of players.
I think that was a really awesome time, and I wish, like I said, I wish I could have stayed longer, but at that point I was absolutely beat. What did you think of it though, James?
I also had to leave, I think about halfway through, but it was just fun to hear that. Let's see here. I've used this quote from EOTB like 3 times now, one of which was on last night's live stream about Black Lodge Games. But about that flow state where nobody is really looking at their phones. People aren't really looking from side to side for like stimulation off screen, off the table, where the action is sort of being volleyed back and forth like you're on a tennis court between the players and the DM, to where somebody proposes an action, somebody wants to do a thing, and there's a response, etc. Like everybody just it's just ongoing. I got to experience that flow state, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was one thing that was really cool, was seeing, you know, for all everybody says about, well, I say everybody, for all so many people say about how overly complicated AD&D is, you know, Neuromancer just made it, you know, with everybody at the table, it was just going so fast. There was really no need
That's the other thing is, anytime I, sorry to cut you off, just anytime I get into a game with descending AC, I'm terrible at descending AC. I swear to God, I forget the moment I sit down with my character sheet, I forget the calculation. And I have to like read it off somebody else's. Does somebody else have like a cleric at the same level or something like that? All right, cool. I could read it off their sheet. It's nice in a lot of these games to just be able to sit down and have like a basic understanding of the rules. But if you have something that like you're particularly bad at, or just generally not up to speed on, you could sit down, and the DM is used to accommodating you, like accommodating your deficiencies in that regard. So that was a lot of fun, and huge shout out to Neuromancer for running that game.
Definitely.
Yeah, he ran a great game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that table's good too, because I mean, you were sitting right next to EOTB, I think, Ash. So if you had any question about 1E, you're going to get it answered like instantaneously. So it's the table too. And that's a positive of North Texas. It's like, if you ever, whatever your holdups are for trying something because you think it's going to be too difficult or too complicated, you go sit down at a table at a game that you think that's going to be the case. And every person there has probably played 30 years of that game. And they're going to have no problem helping you and be very cool about it too. Like, you know, oh, hey, I don't know how to, you know, they're going to tell you right away. If it's not the DM, it'll be the guy right next to you, right? They'll instantly show you how to do a thing. And so it's a perfect place to try out an old school system that, you know, maybe was intimidating for you. And it's not like this. I mean, this was a group of, you know, friends from our server, you know, the server. So it's a perfect place to, even better, you know, to hang out. Well, we're probably going to, you'll get razzed a little bit, but that's, you know, it's fine.
Even then, it was fine. Like, that was the other thing, is just having dinner, having lunch with folks is fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I always prefer speaking over voice. I think it's better for communication than speaking over text. And 99% of cases, I actually hate, by and large, outside of DMs. I generally hate writing to people. I will put out the occasional blog post, but like that's all of it pales in comparison to just having a conversation with people like face to face. It's so much more fun. It's more polite. It's more funny. I like it.
I agree. Yeah.
No question.
I mean, that is the thing that's really painful about whenever you're doing most of your gaming online, especially whenever there's not a lot of cameras. But I mean, the voice is great. Whenever you get cameras involved and you can see them, it's even better. Whenever you're in person, holy crap. You know, I'm fortunate enough that, I have a weekly game that's in person. So it wasn't like a huge thing that I was finally able to play in person at the con. Although that's a 5e game, and this was not 5e. None of it was. So that was a true treat to be able to play this stuff in person.
Neuro was also running like a top tier module, like Haiku Asphalts from Guy Fullerton. It's awesome. That was the first time that I've been not looking at it. I've just been hearing about it. And I'm so happy I did, because I didn't know we were going to run that. And he ran it great. Obviously, it was, the table with all you fine gentlemen. And it was just, I can't wait to finish it up on the server too. So that's a phenomenal module. So,
okay. So when's the finish up happening?
I believe it's scheduled for next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
For everybody that wants to play.
Yeah, I know that module pretty well, so I was just kind of sitting back and rolling dice and playing along. I will. There's parts of that module I definitely want to see this crew how they do with it.
Did anybody kick the bucket?
No,
nobody died.
Not yet. So,
any notable fatalities
two dwarven
in
fighters and 2 dwarven clerics. I don't think anybody was going to go down for a hot second.
I ran. Milan was gracious enough to give me an advanced look at a module called the Well of the Frogs. Really more of a city campaign starter type thing that has a dungeon in it. That I was going to run at the con, and he had for sale at the con. It was an advanced look at it, and there was one guy in that module who died twice, if I remember right.
He did, in
spectacular ways.
Well,
and that's the other fun thing about conventions is that you can just go for broke, right? And so I mean, like this guy was drinking. He drank out of cups that he found in held by skeletons, and I mean, like, so there was this one. So the first fatality was the group gets down to this door, and they've been looking. They heard something about this mysterious figure called the Collector, right? And so they're in this dungeon that they get to from this well in the plaza, and they're down here and they're going around, and they think they might have found the place where the Collector is. There's this one guard that's standing guard there at the end of a dead-end hallway. Well, I mean, there's a door behind him and there's a door to his left, but I mean, there's no branches. Like that's the end of the hallway. And so they kind of approach him, and they said that they wanted to see the Collector. They didn't know that this was. They just figured they would take a guess. They're like, "Oh, we want to see the Collector." And he's like, "Oh, come back later. The Collector's not seeing anybody right now." And so they kind of went back and huddled a little bit, and I think the group decided that the Collector probably has a lot of cash. Because the Collector, I think, buys stuff, so they probably have a lot of treasure. We're going to just storm this place, and we're going to burn it to the ground, and we're going to take all the treasure, right? So they cast a hold person on this guard, and he failed to save. And at that point, they realized that there were 2 doors, and they weren't sure which one it was. They were both locked, and they looked on the guard. There was no key. And so this Chaos MVP guy, he's like, "Well, I just slit the throat of the guard." And they booted the door behind them. They took a guess, I think, if I remember right. They bend bars, lift gates, got a successful roll. So they basically broke open the door behind them, and that turned out to be the right door. But before they even saw what was in there, they then hucked the dead body of this guard into the middle of the room. I guess they thought that this would be an intimidating entrance or something. Well, anyway, the collector in this module is I mean, it gives you the battle layout of it. So it presumes that the party might fight, but needless to say, this is somebody who has a lot of firepower, a lot of friends, a lot of stuff in the room. And so they took one look in the room, and they quickly realized that they were not going to be able to win this fight. And so then they turned tail, and they basically started to run. One guy, Austin Jim again, he had a whole person spell memorized. So they basically shut the door behind them. It was all busted up, but he cast the whole portal spell to kind of magically fix it in place, and the other group would have to break through it. So it gave them a head start, and they're running down the hallway. They run back to the well where they've got these ropes hanging down from the top so that they can basically climb out. And some dice rolls commenced. It turned out that one of them was going to be left on the landing before they could get everybody up the ropes. And so the thieves were like, well, we're going to freestyle it, right? We're just going to climb up. We're not going to use the ropes. We'll lessen the traffic jam. And one of the things about this well was that there were all these little frog heads on the inside of the well. It's the well of frogs. And if you touched one of them, it would like rotate back to reveal, flush masonry with the wall of the well. And on these little patches of masonry, sometimes there were like magical glyphs, there'd be messages, there'd be different stuff. Well, the first thief, there were two thieves. He's freestyling up, and he randomly hit. We figured he would hit two of them on the way up. Well, the first one he hit actually was a glyph of levitation. So he like floated up and out, all great. Well, the second thief, the chaos dude, he also rolled two, but the first one that he rolled was a glyph of explosive runes. So, I mean, like instantly he blew up. I mean, just like chunks of them were raining down the well on top of the people trying to get out. And they'd already figured that there was some nasty monster in the water at the bottom. So, everybody was kind of joking about, because there was this other guy who took a header off, the NPC that Gus's, later arriving cleric had been going with. So there were jokes about that. But so this guy, he gets up out of the well, and, long story short, he makes up another druid, and they go down into the dungeon via a different route, because now the collectors like put up wanted signs all over town. It's letting people, it's got, their description, it's offering a reward for them. So now they're like outlaws. They sneak down in another way, and they immediately go down and they see this skeleton there with a cup. And they're like, well, what should we do with it? Well, he's like, I'm going to drink out of the cup. Well, the cup has poison inside of it, but it also has like a charm feature. There's like a spirit tied to the cup. It's the spirit of a woman. And so he grabs the cup. This woman apparition appears, and he fails the saving throw, which means he falls in love with the spirit, which is what the last guy who died here did, right? Like, that's why he's still down here holding the cup. And so, he becomes dominated, and he's basically out. So this is his second dude, right? The second dude is basically out of the game. But in the interim, while they're playing this out, this whole interplay came up because Jim, of course, I mean, he's like the party quartermaster. And so he's going, hey, man, that druid, he's got some magical equipment on him. And so his character is trying to convince the druid character to, well, you probably don't need all that equipment, right? I mean, if you're going to stay here. And so the druid's player's like, yeah, yeah, that works. And so they're starting to hand over all this magical equipment. And, but the spirit, this apparition, this lady apparition, she decided that was not going to go down. And so she started, saying, well, what about our future life together? And if you give up all of our assets, what about the children we'll have? And don't you need to keep your wealth? And so he failed another saving throw. So he wasn't, I said that she used her power of community property on him. Mm-hmm. And so amazing. He refused to give up his stuff.
We dubbed the chalice the simp chalice.
Simp and easy.
That's right. No, that was That's a phenomenal. Yeah, that was another phenomenal game we played in. So, yeah,
that sounds glorious, man.
That's just little improvised moments that old school gaming is full of. That I think is like half the reason people play it is because those moments come up so often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the reason too is because you just have, there's a set thing that's in the room. There's no expectation of what happens in that thing. So whenever you're in a moment, you are supposed to improvise. That's the point. You're trying to find a tactic. You're trying to find something on you, something useful in the room, any method to give you an advantage, because it's not going to be assumed that you're going to have one. There's no assumption that it's going to be balanced or in your favor. And so everything in your mind has to be working. And that's why you get moments like that. I don't know. For me, there's nothing that's going to replace that ability to come up with things on the fly. And then you also have different personalities. People see things differently. And it's also, I prefer it when people aren't trying to play their intelligence scores, or they're trying to RP based off of something on the character sheet. They're literally just enjoying, like, they're playing the character however they want to play the character and the way that they want to play it. There's no limitations on it, right? And so they're making choices based on how they want to make those choices. And that guy was hilarious because he was playing it how he wanted to play it. Both times he was basically throwing chaos bombs, into the room. And to E's point, during a convention, that's not only is that fun, but it's, I feel like it should be done in a lot of ways. You got to have people that are looking to move things forward, but you got to have people that are willing to drink the sim cup, right? So, because it just adds too much fun to the game. So, and that's something You're not going to get. You're never going to get that, and you shouldn't. You're not going to get that in a long-term campaign that has other benefits. So you get a chance to let loose, and that particular module, credit out to Milan and his boys. They just have, they produce great things, and that's just another testament of a great, module that they put out. So anybody that gets an opportunity to pick it up, it's a good one. I'm going to run it for my players. So
yeah, I've loved everything of his that I've seen. Helvexia, I think, is really cool. I've got Zintillan just a few feet away, and I've been really dying to run that sometime. I also have several of his zines, the Echoes from Formalhaut.
Okay. Yep, that sounds right.
Yeah. Those they're all, what I love about them is that they're all I don't know, they feel like classic fantasy, but all with a hint of whimsy about them. Not like stupid whimsy, but more like there's just a certain quality to it that's just really interesting. I don't know, very fun, I guess. It feels less basic, a lot less basic than a lot of things, I guess is a way to put it. And there's a lot of personality in it, I would say, without being any kind of purple prose or anything like that. It's just straight up stuff that's useful for running a cool game. I also love the way that he formats things.
Oh, I agree. That should be the standard, not OSC. It should be Gabber Lux should be the standard of format.
Yeah, what I love about Milan stuff is how much potential is in each of the things that he puts. Like there's tons of little bits throughout his stuff that is full of untapped potential at the table to produce those moments. And that to me is the difference between his products and a lot of other stuff, and why there's so much fun to run at conventions and everywhere else, is because a lot of the stuff out there, there's no social potential in it. Like it is exactly what is on the page. It's going to play out pretty much exactly like you think. And it's just like there's a question of math involved, but it's probably not going to spin out into something wild. And with his stuff, it seems like he'll just put in a couple of sentences. There's nothing really specific in it, and yet it can go anywhere once you throw that bit on the table.
I mean, the frog heads are the perfect example. You could have had a well go down and it could be interesting, but then he throws those frog heads out there for you to touch potentially and mess with. And then he bakes in a little bit of that mechanic, right? Where you got some randomness on exactly what that frog head's going to do. Like when you touch it, it could be good or it could suck. And I think that's, I don't know, those touches to me are what separate him from everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's really cool that, I can actually find his stuff there. That's one of the things that was kind of mind blowing. I mean, so my local game store, they've got some Lamentation stuff. They've got some DCC, well, a lot more DCC than they do Lamentations. But beyond that, I mean, the actual stuff that you could buy is pretty much nothing old school wise. It's all 5e, current era Call of Cthulhu, which I guess is really not a huge difference between the editions from what I've heard of Call of Cthulhu, but just the typical stuff. But the things that I've loved about going to the con is just finding stuff that mostly that I'd never heard of, like New Big Dragon games. A lot of their stuff I found really, really cool, even though it's like you look at it and, he doesn't like go with, trying to make everything like look super flashy or anything like that. It's just like, kind of like basic cover, title. And then you open it up. And to me, like a lot of like his creature codex stuff is really cool. Because a lot of that was, from what I understand, based on like some appendix in creatures, just like codified into BX in first edition language. And the GM the GM guide thing, the sandbox helper.
D30 companion.
Yeah, the D30 stuff. Yeah.
D30 companion. Yeah, it's up there with I mean, it's not quite the like legendary level of ready ref sheets from Judges Guild, but it's up there, as far as something to use for hex crawling and sandbox games. It's good. I like it. I use the even though I've moved on from basic, I still love the Arthur Rackham cover for the DM screen that they have, and all the information on that screen too is incredibly useful for someone running BX. I mean, I'm going to probably attach 1E stuff on there now, but I still love the front. The cover is beautiful, that Arthur Rackham cover. So, and they make high quality products. So that's the other thing too. It's really well made, and it's very clean, and there's nothing fancy or flashy about it. It just is useful. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm like, I want something useful to practically run a game, not just something to sit on the coffee table. So
yeah, I mean, it's like, for instance, the Mega Dungeon that I run, that started out of the seed of a small zine that I think is pretty much only for sale at conventions. I mean, maybe it's for sale through Blackblade too. I don't know. But Alan Grohe of Blackblade and Tony Roston, known as Weggy online, they started up this small zine. It's called Twisting Stair Zine. And Weggy is an extraordinary mapper, just an amazing mapper, which happens to be my creative time sink deficiency. It takes me a long time to come up with a map that I like. That's not my strength. And so the centerfold of this zine is always a Mega Dungeon map, blank. It's just a blank Mega Dungeon map. And I looked at the first issue. I'm like, this is a great map, And so that became, I would use those maps to make my Mega Dungeon. I mean, I guess it isn't even technically. It's like, I don't know if you call it my Mega Dungeon, so I didn't make the maps, but I filled up their maps to make the Mega Dungeon that I use.
It's your Mega Dungeon.
And they always put like 2 or 3 really excellent encounters in each zine. They're like, you can throw these in somewhere in the dungeon or whatever. In fact, the Dolores encounter that they were talking about, that's one of the encounters in zine number 1, and I mean, it played out awesome, right? So and that's the type of products that you don't really seem to get when you buy the big box RPG stuff. You don't get that level of quality. You really have to go to the cons and get these like out of the way little tiny boutique products that have been filled with love and craftsmanship. Because a lot of the big RPG designers, I mean, they're guns for hire. They're writing for 30 different systems. I mean, they're going to write for whatever they're hired to write. So there's definitely a difference. It's like there's a chain restaurant and mom's home cooking, right? I mean, it's not even the same.
Not even the same. Yeah, you can guarantee that they were heavily played. Like this type of material was put through the furnace of their home groups, and it shows in the final product. So
yeah, I guess that's one thing I've kind of learned in my time in the OSR thus far is whenever you have somebody that's putting out, something brand new, pretty much like every year, that's wildly different from the last one, especially if it's a system, then it's like, I don't know how much, like playtesting and love and all that went into this. Might have some really cool ideas, some really interesting pros to it, but yeah, there's something
even then
special.
you're gonna get something that's just like they made the one cool idea because they knew that was like a marketing requirement.
I understand. Yeah, I've grown a little bit more cynical, I would say, than I used to be. But whenever you do have those things that people have been, working on for ages, seemingly, or at least consistently and supporting for a long time, I think that's a different story. I'd imagine that's kind of where like Hyperborea is, or Axe, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is one thing about Hyperborea. Everything that's put out that I know of that was ever put out for the module wise was extensively play tested over a long period of time before it ever hit, the paper. And it shows, right? Like you said, it shows in the product, because there's a certain level you can't go beyond until you've put it through the furnace, like Gus said, of good players in a home campaign, because they will find the holes and they will know if it's good.
That's what I love about the DMG so much, is you can see all the little things where Gygax is like, okay, we had a little problem here. Here's how this was addressed. Stuff where the real loosey goosey rules ended up getting refined into something a lot more refined, I guess.
And just to like on Jeff's game, like Hyperborea, it speaks already to him. His games at North Texas, I mean, I was talking about how you sign up for games. You have to be willing to pay the $5, and you got to be like on the button the 15th. And then on the April 15th, that's the March 15th. And you got to be like right on your computer the minute it goes live to get into his games. Like, they are high demand every single year. And there's just no way that people would be wanting to sign up that much for his games if he had put out something that, wasn't high quality. Right. And, you can go, and the fun part about North Texas too, and I encourage people to do this, is to everybody's, for the most part, I've never seen anybody have like a DM or a table have a problem, but you can just go by and listen for a few minutes. Like, you can watch Jeff run a game. You can watch like Raji run a game. You can watch a lot of these guys run games for a little bit of time and see how they do it. Like the first year I went, that was a huge thing. Like it was so much fun to just kind of walk by tables and spend a few minutes listening to how they were running, how people were playing, what they were doing. And it's a really open environment, and people are pretty cool about it. So.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I had, so I don't think I really even played in any games the last time I went, but this time, even with our Shadow Dart game, we had some people come up and walk by and kind of listen for a little while, and I thought it was kind of weird at first because I'm used to like the local game stores, kind of like the closest comparison I got, where we'd be like, "Oh, you okay? You lost?" But no, everybody was cool with it, and I was like, "Oh, I guess this is just how it is," And yeah, it is just a really, really awesome environment. And so I my girlfriend came with me this year, and she was maybe a little bit nervous at first because she's not terribly familiar with like a lot of the old school stuff. But everybody was just so cool. There wasn't a single person that was rude or anything like that. There was like there's a moment where there was a rules thing that she didn't know, because she's used to like 5th edition mostly. And so this was actually in Party's game where she was about to cast sleep on something that was like over 4 hit die. And he was like, well, you may not want to do that or whatever. And it wasn't like a big deal, People weren't like, "Oh, you're stupid. You shouldn't have done that. How dare you? You're wasting your spell. Screw you." None of that. It was just a lot more productive. People are they're just there. They're just there to game, and really, it seems like a lot of people just want the hobby to flourish. I feel like the only thing that I've noticed is that people don't want. They're happy for people to learn, and they're happy to teach, but they don't want people to talk shit about it, or to demean it. That seems to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would say that's spot on. If somebody's coming in good faith and they're like, hey, I don't know this stuff and I want to learn it, they're going to find a warm welcome. But yeah, I mean, if you go there and you're trying to, leapfrog it and look better then you're going to find out that you probably have come to the wrong place.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not to say you can't have, like, as great as it is, it's still an open con, right? And so, and there was a lot. I mean, this year they basically fundamentally, I'm assuming with walk-ups, sold out because they capped it. And this is another beautiful thing about North Texas. They cap it at 500 between online signups and then walk-ups. And so I think they probably have a little more than 500 if I was to guess, because I think their online, their last announcements for online ticket sales was like 470. And then they said they usually get about 50 to 80 walk-ups a year. So, and
I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get in because I didn't sign up beforehand. I was like, oh man.
No, I think for the walk-ups, honestly, they're probably at the point with walk-ups because they're just not that many, right? That they just pretty much let it, even though it probably puts the con over 500. My guess is they cap the online ticket sales at 500, and then whoever shows up, right? Like, you got to the con, so cool, like, buy a ticket. I don't know, maybe if it starts to become a problem, they may cut that off. I have no idea, but that's my guess is how they handle it, right? Since it's only like 50 to 80 people, like, who cares? But yeah, you're still going to get a bad player. It's going to happen. Someone's going to show up with expectations that are just not in line with the con, right? And so I had that. I mean, I ran a game on Thursday morning, and unfortunately, like, I had played in a game with this pair. It was a father-son pair, which is really sad because you think that's a great thing. Love to see it. Matter of fact, I'm going to start bringing my daughters, I think, for at least one day now that they're getting old enough to sit in games. And I've seen it with other guys that, are there at the con. They'll bring their kids, get some games in, expose them to, like, the old school games and stuff like that, just to, see the group, see everybody. And so it's cool to see, like, a dad, his teenage son, like, playing in games. Unfortunately, this pair it's rough. The dad just doesn't treat his son right? And so you're dealing with out of the table, trying that not to bring your game down. So it happens. It's not it's not some perfect magical, like, rainbow con, right? Like, everything's going sparkles. Like, you're going to get a bad player. It's going to happen. I was in, and I couldn't wait to play this game. So EOTB had told me about just a really good OD&D GM named Steve Robertson. Dude puts out cool modules too. I want to play in his games. He ran like 8 games this con, and he hadn't run any, I think, last year. And I really wanted to get into a game, so I got into one of his games. Super excited about it. It was my only Saturday game, and there was actually one of the guys from K&K. His daughter was there again, like, bringing the younger kids, getting them exposed to this. So he told me, he's like, hey, my daughter's gonna be in that game too. Have a great time. If, like, the table's a downer, you guys just, like, pair up and just go after it, right? I told her that you were good people, and anyway, so I was excited. And I had played. There's a couple other guys at the table I'd played in years past too with, so I was super excited. Well, we got a gentleman that just wanted to do everything against what the group was looking to do, and was questioning, like, every decision, and it just brings it down, and that's the advice I can give to people is the group is especially at a con, so much more important than what than your individual, like, character needs. Like, play, enjoy the table, go along with what the group wants to do, because it's going to be more, it's going to be a better experience for you. You're going to have a lot more fun. Add your opinion, suggest things, but at a convention, this is not your normal play group. So, take that in consideration, have a little bit of courtesy. And I think 99% of the time at North Texas, you're going to find phenomenal folks. But just realize occasionally you're going to get in a game that, especially if you're playing a ton of games, during the con, you're going to get into it, and you're playing open table. You're playing just sign up games, like they're on what we call on grid, right? Like you signed up for them. You're going to occasionally get a difficult personality. So
that's why I like to always play a thief if I'm playing in a con game, because I'll just kind of give the DM that look and see if he gives that look back to me, and if that player is at the table, well, oopsie backstabby. Right?
Yep. And Steve was amazing. And I recommend anybody that goes to North Texas, if he's running a game, Steve Robertson's phenomenal. Play some cool OD&D. Guy's awesome. And it didn't really bring it down at all. It ended up being a phenomenal game, but for me personally, but it could have been even that much better if you've got everybody working together. So, and I'll give one more piece of advice as far as my experience with the con. When you go to a con, like an RPG con for the first time, do not try and fill your calendar with like 12 hours of gaming every single day for 4 or 5 days. Like you will literally, after the second day, hate your life. You'll start hating. You're like, I don't like, you barely have time to eat, if you even have time to eat, because the way they usually block these out, they don't block out most of it's usually a 9 to 1 and then a 1 to 5 and then a 6, maybe dinner, and then a 6 to whatever at night, right? Like those are the traditional blocks at North Texas. So if you filled up your calendar with 3 games, because you would have breakfast and maybe dinner if you're lucky, and you'd be gaming at a table for 12 hours minimum, maybe more, maybe 14. And if you do that for 2 days, you're just not going to enjoy yourself. It's not going to be fun. You're not going to have time to socialize with your friends. You're not going to have time to go check out the vendor hall, and you're not going to have time to go to do what is one of the best things, which is to find pickup games. So.
Yep. I think that, you do see people there who are new and they have that new player burnout, new con-goer burnout, because you're playing in good games, and they are moving fast, and they are run by people who know how to run them, and being played by people who know how to play them. And I think that some people aren't used to the amount of like engagement and decision making that you'll have in those games. And so, when you're plugged into a good game for 4 hours straight, and then you plug into a second good game for 4 hours straight, you're taxed.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you'll burn out real quick, and you think you won't. You're like, no, I got to get as much as I can, especially for people that fly in. You're paying the money to fly in. You're paying for the hotel. Like there's a big expenditure there for you, and you want to maximize. You think you want to maximize your experience by playing wall-to-wall games. I'm just telling everybody out there that if they've never been to one, whether it's Gary Con, whether it's Game Hole, whatever, Genghis Con, whatever, right? Don't blast your schedule, because you will just, by the third day, you won't want to go to the game. You won't want to go. You're gonna drop out of a game. Like you'll probably say, no, I'm not going to go to that, just because you're so tired. So.
Well, definitely appreciated advice. I came pretty close to overtaxing myself. I didn't even sign up for stuff. It's just that I just had the opportunities arise,
Yeah.
And I had just enough. I feel like I had just enough. If we didn't have that Torchy's taco break in the lunch break, oh man, I would have been screwed.
Yeah.
So what would y'all say your favorite product that you got there was, if you got a product, or at least maybe one that you saw?
Let's see. I definitely picked up that. Let me plug this too. I feel bad. So it wasn't actually Milan that wrote Well of Frogs.
Oh,
it's one of the Hungarian crew. So shout out to the guy's name I can't pronounce, and I apologize, but shout out to him, because that was a phenomenal module. And I got that. That was easily. And the cool part about that is too, and now this is a shout out to Milan. He, like he said, he sent that to the con just as a con release. And in those con books, it actually says like North Texas RPG con release. And there will be and those will be the only ones that have that, because he'll do the wide release. But I'm pretty sure those, I don't know, before I say that, maybe that's not true. I think it is, though, because the number, the cool part about Milan's products is he numbers them, right? So he'll tell you how many out of that print run. And I'm almost positive they're going to run more than 45, because that was the total number for these at the con was 45. And so I think it's just this version is just going to be the North Texas version, and then they'll release the same, probably the same exact thing. It just won't have North Texas on it. So, so it's cool. If you were there and you picked it up, you got a little bit of, special. So I think that's really cool. So that's probably going to be my major one. But then I got one from, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's really sad. Hawk. His Necomante module, real cool. So I'm excited about that one. I've been reading a little bit on that. Those are my two.
Okay.
Yeah, I had actually gotten a lot of the stuff that Blackblade had at their table, and I generally just go to the Blackblade table because I mean they have the eclectic stuff, right? I mean, like you have other guys there who are running tables for their own products, but Blackblade kind of collects products from all sorts of small publisher, old school guys. And I had never gotten a copy of Gene Weigel's or now I can't remember, Broken Castle or something, but it's the one that he puts out, that he put out a couple of years ago, and it's definitely full of home charm, and I hadn't gotten the chance to really read it, so I picked up that one, and I still haven't really gotten a chance to read it because I got home from the con to of course a massive backlog, so I had to chew through that. I'm just starting to go through stuff this weekend, but I got that one, and that one looks really promising. There was they had another little module, and it's interesting. So they ran into somebody who had printed off. He had a little small press module company in like 1982, and he still had 2 boxes of these modules that he sold at cons back in the 80s, sitting somewhere in his garage or something. I don't know. But he consigned them over to Blackblade, and so they were selling these 40-year-old publications that were just mint, right? So I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and pick one of those up. And I mean, it was interesting. I think that one, it's kind of one of those, it harkens back to a time where things were really cookie cutter. And so it's got a couple of good ideas in it, but I probably won't run that one. But I mean, it was interesting from just an artifact of history standpoint,
Yeah, definitely.
So Aaron, did you get you some Lamentations?
I did. Yeah. I mean, so I was so I got Better Than Any Man in print, which I've wanted to get that in print for a long time, because for the longest time, you pretty much got it that original run, or as far as I know, you didn't. Like you had to get the PDF. There may have been some printings before, but I hadn't heard of them. But there was the printing that happened just maybe last year or something like that, and so they started selling it on the online bookstore. But I'm kind of cheap, so whenever it's sitting there at the con for like, I don't know, it was like 20 or 30, I think it was $35 or something, I was like, hell yeah, Better Than Any Man. So I got that, and I'm psyched about that. The other one I got was the Death Anthology. So just another one of the Lamentations anthologies, and I'm there's some pretty interesting stuff in there. There's some stuff I wish I could never see again. But then the girlfriend, she picked up Chivalry and Sorcery, I think it was 5th edition. Which
it's 5th edition? Did they come? I was going to say that's a deep cut if that was like the 1980 version.
Oh no, this was maybe 10 years ago. I feel like it was a Kickstarter version. I don't know. It's more recent, but yeah, it was the 5th edition one. So
gotcha.
That being said, it's interesting. There seems to be a lot to it. But it was an interesting read just from the skim that I did. And probably the one that I didn't expect at all, but I thought was really cool, is this one called Music Land. I can't remember who did it, but it's like a demi-plane where it's full of all kinds of music things that have come to life. I don't know. It sounds interesting. It sounds weird. I like weird stuff, clearly. I mean, obviously, I was all hyped about getting Better Than Any Man. Probably the thing that really got me, though, is freaking Hyperborea 3rd edition was just sitting there looking sexy. And by that point, I'd already spent all I was willing to spend for the con. So yet again, it has evaded my grasp. It will survive for another year, perhaps.
It just gives you something to look forward to the next con when you go to the vendor hall. You
yeah.
got a thing that's on your radar. You know you're going to pick it up. It gives you something to look forward to. So,
and I'm not in any position to be able to run it anytime soon anyway. I've got my DCC campaign going right now, and I've got a lot of other stuff I want to run. So it's going to be a long time before I'm thinking about running any new systems. So for now, it would really just be kind of like perusing the art and, taking some cool pulpy ideas.
Speaking of someday. DCC, did any of the DCC stuff, the Dying Earth box set was there? Anything tempt you at all?
Oh, I own almost all of it, man. Okay. So I actually, I almost backed the Dying Earth set, but then I decided at the last minute, I was like, wait a minute, I should be able to just buy this later, because with the Lankmar box set, I didn't back that, but I bought it easily. So it doesn't really seem to be a thing where I'm going to have a hard time getting it. So I was like, oh, so maybe a couple months ago, I just ordered the Dying Earth box set, and it came in. As far as like box sets go, it doesn't have like a set of dice in it. So like I'm kind of, I feel cheated. I feel like a box set should have dice. I don't know, or at least something like that. But it does have some really cool maps. And it seems cool. I haven't really haven't gotten too deep into it, but they have a lot of cool stuff there. But I'm kind of souring on getting all kinds of DCC modules these days. Like I like mining them for certain ideas, but I don't know that I'm going to be running as much of them as written as I used to, just because I tend to like things a little bit more open than a lot of the ways that they do their modules. Not all the modules, but some of them. But I didn't really have a whole lot of time to look either, because I gamed all of Saturday, and I just kind of poked my head in Sunday, because Sunday is usually when people are kind of closing down and all that kind of stuff. But
Reggie started. I remember walking over the table. He had his table set up like Wednesday night. Maybe it was Thursday, real early Thursday morning. And I was playing in a tournament game that morning. I just walked in the vendor hall just to see, because that's when it was fresh, like, basically untouched. And I always go in there and I pick up the thing I want right away. So I saw Milan's like Frog of Whales or Well of Frogs, and I was like, boom, right away from Alan, because I was like, I have no idea. He said he had 35 copies. I didn't think that would sell out. Didn't care. Not gonna miss it, right? Like I always go in Thursday morning, grab the thing, because I just want to make sure I don't miss it. And Castle X I had gotten the year before, and he only had 3 copies of that, and so they definitely sold out of that within the first day. So I was very happy about it. So that was my lesson. I'm going to go in and grab the one thing I don't want to miss, because E had tipped me off about it. He's like, yeah, it's going to be there, it's going to be exclusive. I'm like, okay, I'll pick that up. But then the other thing I noticed was the Lamentations table, and he had a ton of books, and by the end of the con, to his credit, there were not that many books, like by Saturday evening, like a lot. I mean, he sold a lot of product, I think. So I think there's a lot of people that were there for one. It was cool that he actually showed up this year.
Oh yeah.
Which was interesting. And then the fact that he ran games, even more interesting. And the fact he brought that much product to the con, I did not expect that. So, so all to his credit.
I wish I could have seen a picture of the setup whenever he first had it.
No, it was high. It was like stacks, like, because they put that sheet on at night, right, when they're closed down.
Yeah.
And it was high, like very, and there was a ton of books. And it was probably half that, like by like Saturday evening. So good for him. The guy from Swordfish Island was there too.
Oh yeah,
that was the first time that he had set up a booth, to my knowledge. I had bumped into him at previous years, but that was the first time that I'd seen him. Jacob Hurst, I believe is his name.
Yeah, he was actually there last year. That was the first time I and what did I buy last year? I bought from him Dark of Hot Springs Island. That's what I bought from him last year. Very, very nice dude, very cool. And there was another person at the booth as well. I think he's an artist, and he seems really talented. They had a lot of really cool stuff there though this year as well.
That was I should have brought this up. That was my surprise purchase. Was normally it's like New Big Dragon will probably be like they'll have something new that I'll probably want to pick up, and then Black Blade is where I spend most of my money. And I did not. I mean, I think that Swordfish, what do they call it? What's their is it Swordfish Publishing? Whatever their company's called, Jacob Hurst, their publishing house is. But I think it's all cool, but it's not something that I don't know. It's not something I can just. I'm going to drop into one of my games, but I do appreciate it for what it is. The funny part is, so I walked by his booth and I was talking with him, looking at his stuff, and he had a Jack Vance book actually.
Yes,
and I was like, "What?" And it's a hard one to get. Like it's out of print. It's really tough to find good used copies because the last printing, I don't know, was a long time ago. And the fact that he had this beautiful, hardbound, gorgeous art on the inside, I was like, I did not anticipate spending this much money, like wanting to drop that much money, but I ended up pulling the trigger on that one. So that was my surprise purchase. I'm not going to let a hard to get Jack Vance book get away. So
yeah, I honestly regret not buying it while I was there.
It's expensive. He's proud of it. It's a lot of money, but I was like, I had to get it. I did enjoy. Normally, if I'm very particular about art, like there's certain things I just don't like, and things that just hit right for me. And so when I opened it up, if it would have been mediocre or if it would have been nice but not my style, I probably would have passed on it. But the art it hit right for me, and I was like, okay, I'll buy this.
Yeah, that dude gets aesthetic really well.
Yes, as he does. Pace Setters there. EOTB's favorite publisher, Pace Setter Games. No, Bill Barsh is cool, dude. I play in his tournament every year, but I haven't. There's not too many. I don't know. Did you guys check out? He had. It was a lot of guys had been buying it. I guess Holmes had an unpublished adventure module, and somehow Bill got his hands on the transcripts or something, and then kind of finished it up and then published it underneath Pace Setter. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that seemed to be
I saw it. I didn't actually get to read it though.
Okay. And I could be completely wrong on that, but I was pretty sure it was like Holmes of Basic Holmes famous.
Yeah. That's what it said.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now, you reminded me. Now I'm depressed about that book. The one that got away.
The funny part is after I got home and I was like reading through it, and I was like, you know what? I actually think I saw this, because once every quarter I'll go check Kickstarter to see if there's something, and then all like the few individuals that I want to see their Kickstarters, like a Matt Finch, right? Like Mythmere, if he's gonna have a Kickstarter, I'm gonna go look at it. I'm probably gonna bag it. There's those auto ones that I'll go look at. But they're few and far between. So I usually check Kickstarter once every quarter. I think I saw that they were doing that, but I think I balked at the price at the time because the book wasn't in my hand. I didn't know what the art was going to look like, right? And so I was like, nah, I'm not spending that money for that book, right? And then when I'm there and it's in my hand and it was as nice as it was, I'm like, okay, I can't believe I'm about to fork over this, but okay, you got me.
James, did you end up picking up anything?
No products. I saw the guys who were selling really, really cheap minis that they were just trying to get rid of stock for, and I was like, maybe I'll grab something. Maybe I'll grab something here. Ended up deciding against it, because I am attempting to be fiscally responsible, and anything that's not coffee nowadays is pretty much a price I try to stay. I'm trying to avoid buying anything except for basic necessities and coffee. But yeah, so those interested me. Besides that, I'll probably pick up some products next year, but not this time.
Yeah, I feel you.
Nothing wrong with that, especially I always look at it when I go in there. I'm like, okay, yes, this would be fun to just own and sit on the shelf, but unless I know that I'm going to attempt to actually run it and put it into like something, I'm not going to buy it. Like, that's the main thing. Am I actually going to use this? Am I going to reference this? Am I going to drop it into a campaign in the next like year or two? If that's not there, then I'm just like, yeah, that'd be cool to have, and it'd be bling on the shelf, but that's worthless. Like, don't waste your money. I think K5 had a question though.
Oh, Let's con treasure. Any practical travel tips? I'll leave this to somebody who actually had to travel and didn't drive like an hour like I did.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong one. 30-minute drive for me. So,
I mean, it's everybody kind of likes to travel differently, right? So, I mean, for me, I never like to be rushed during traveling. I just hate that feeling. So I tend to try and leave mid-morning. I like to get to the con early enough on Wednesday that I still get to meet and greet, right? I mean, because Wednesday to me is the time to catch up with all your old buddies, that are coming in and just recollect. Actually, I do have one travel tip. Always make sure that you check in with the hotel front desk to when the shuttles leave, because the last year I went to North Texas, they left every half hour. And I guess I just presumed. I mean, I'd gone to that hotel and taken shuttles back to the airport for 3 or 4 years before that, So I was just like every half hour. And so I went down to the desk at 7 a.m. in the morning, thinking I was going to have plenty of time to get my flight. And I found out that I had just missed. Or no, I went down a little after 6 a.m. And I found out I had just missed the 6 a.m. shuttle. I'm like, okay, cool. 6:31 going. Oh, and she's like, no, the next one doesn't leave till 7. And then I was sweating, So definitely check to make sure if you're on a flight when the shuttles leave, so that you don't. I ran up to the gate that I was flying out of as people were boarding, whereas normally I like to get there a little bit earlier than that. If it would have been a nasty TSA day, I would have been in a little bit of problem. But I mean, the TSA line was almost nothing. That's probably the only thing that saved my ass.
It's a good tip. Yeah, I'd say not necessarily travel, but something I want, like all the guys from the server. One of the things I want to do is, it's good to get away from the con for a bit. It's good to go to not just because they're going to bring in food trucks. They're good food trucks. They're decent food trucks, right? For North Texas. But there's also some really good places to go eat that are not that far. The best places are unfortunately probably, you're going to have to plan that, right? You're going to probably have to set aside several hours if you want the best barbecue in the area. It's not going to be like a lunch trip, like a 1-hour lunch, but you could still get some high quality food in the area within like a 10 or 15 minute drive. And so that's my thing is, I would, regardless of whether you're going to take an Uber because you don't know anybody in the area, or obviously if like you're part of the Pedantic Discord server and you come, I'm probably going to have to rent a bus next year or something, like a big shuttle van, so we could start like, driving
nice yellow, yeah. Perhaps short,
maybe short, yeah,
bus
absolutely.
That we could get,
yeah,
something that we could get for the
we got a nice little short yellow,
a special school that
yeah, that may not be in use that weekend, right? We could just borrow it and drive everybody around. But yeah, I'd get away from the buses, or get away from the actual hotel, like, for a little bit, go eat some real good food, right? Like check some things out, go eat some good food, sit down, get away from the con. It's great. It's good. It's good to help. I talked about, you're playing in 12-hour games. It's good mentally to just kind of like take a break. So,
yeah, I mean, Gus, being local and being able to recommend some places nearby to get us out of the hotel, that definitely helped. But what I love about that conversation that he just had is that you could tell he was still kind of defensively, guarding against his barbecue recommendation that Party was spoofing afterwards.
Correct.
No, it may not be the best. That's too far away, but
yes, I was hedging everything there. Yes. So,
what was the barbecue recommendation?
Well, we went to, because it's only about 15 minutes away, in Grapevine. There's Meet You Anywhere, and Bad Mike and all those guys. They go there because it's close and it's probably the best. It is the best, closest barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
Far from the best barbecue in DFW, but it's the best, closest barbecue. I think it blows out like Heart 8, which is the normal standard version that I think is more touristy barbecue. But the closer, better brisket place is going to be Pecan Lodge downtown in Dallas. It's just you're going to be waiting an hour in line. It's going to be at minimum an hour round trip. And then you're going to sit down. You're going to want to eat it for an hour. And you can only go during lunch. Like barbecue is a lunch thing. You're not going at night. You're going to get, if they even have meat at a good place, they won't even have meat by the time you get around to dinner time. So it's not a dinner time option. And almost everybody's schedule at a lunchtime at a con, 3 hours is just too much. Like you're going to miss games. You got to decide, okay, do I want to eat barbecue or miss my afternoon game? Like that's your choice.
Yeah.
Basically. So, but yeah, it's fair enough. It's decent enough barbecue, but yeah, I took a little heat from a few people about not being the greatest. A particular individual that already has a bias against Texas.
He was going to spoof whatever was picked. That's
right. And there was no. I could have taken him to Goldie's, like top barbecue in Texas. It's like an hour and a half away. I could have taken him to the best place, and it would have been garbage to him. So it doesn't matter.
Goldie's, huh? Where is that at?
It's like south of Fort Worth. It's like a little town south of Fort Worth, but it's like #1 Texas monthly, barbecue joint. So if you're going to Goldie's, you're gonna have to wake up at about 7 a.m. You're gonna have to get there at about 8:30 in the morning, and you're gonna be waiting in line for about 2.5 hours to get meat. So,
well, maybe one of these days.
Yeah, it's a whole thing if you want to go get the #1 brisket place. So.
I've had that kind of a dining experience before. Like there was a pizza joint in Austin called Home Slice, and I waited like 3 hours. It was amazing, though. Absolutely amazing. It was a transcendent experience.
Yeah. This is the justification for like Texas barbecue. Like that's why people consistently wait at like Franklin's down in Austin for, his brisket and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's always the little places too. I mean, I was driving through Kansas City once, and I had a friend who'd moved to Kansas City, and he did the same thing. Like he's like, you got to go to this place with me, and it was just like this little hole in the wall, like you said, people lined up outside. And it was great stuff. But interestingly, he even said, like, so after you eat this, you're not going to be able to eat Texas barbecue anymore. There's apparently a big Kansas City, Texas barbecue thing. I don't know.
There is. It's a major rivalry. So, yeah, they sauce up all their barbecue because their meat's not great. So they like to cover it in sauce. We just eat it. We just like to make, salt, pepper. Our meat works great. So, but yeah, there's a rivalry there. But yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. So get out of wherever. And this is just con advice, period. But yeah, get away from the hotel. Like, go eat something local. Enjoy yourself. Hang out with good people, and it just makes the next. Because then you look forward after you get done with the meal. You can't wait to get back in. Like you had a nice little mental break, hangout break. You just can't wait to get in and play a game. And I think that's basically how it went down for us on Saturday. We had some great tacos at Torchy's, had a great conversation, and then jumped into to Neuro's game and just had a great time. So even on a Saturday where, energy levels are going down, it's still a lot of fun. So
definitely. All right. Well, you guys have any parting words? Anything con related or not that you want to say before we shut her down?
I mean, the only thing I think that I would say that I haven't said already is, if you want to run something at a con, do it. Make sure that you start way earlier than you think you're going to need to. That's the you don't want to be jamming at the last 2 weeks before a con trying to shove your stuff together. You want to get done with your North Texas adventure that you're going to run by like January, February, something like that. So start now.
For sure. Yeah, I so I always think, because I only live 30 minutes away, right? I can go home that night. I can prep a few things. If I've got some pre-gens that still need to get created, tweaked a little bit, got to finish up a little bit of mapping. And, don't do this. Make sure that even if you're local or you're coming in, especially if you're coming in, wrap everything up and have it ready to go a week or two before you get on that plane or before you drive down. It's just not worth, because you'll justify, I'm having too much fun. I'll get to that. You'll postpone it during the con. You will not do it during the con is the point. You won't do your prep during the con. And so whatever you're prepared with for the most part before the con starts, that's what you're going to have, because you're going to want to hang out. You're going to want to spend time gaming. So get your prep done early. He is 100% correct on that. So Yeah, and I just say everybody that listens to this, come out. It's a great time. I think I still need to go to GaryCon. I hear there's other great things about some Gamehole supposedly have a lot of good old school gaming. I guess TotalCon on the East Coast. There's some smaller ones like SchreierCon. I've heard that there is some good cons out there for old school gaming. I just don't know from what I've seen. I'm not sure that they have. Just the concentration of high quality games and high quality players that North Texas does. I could be wrong. Definitely want to go and experience those, but I feel like, yeah, if you want incredible, like top tier old school gaming, come on out. Like it's a great time. So,
Ash, you got anything?
I mostly just can't wait for next year. That's what I'm most excited about. Playing in more games than I did this time because I played in the AD&T game, I played a couple basic games, and I played in somebody's prototype for basically a board game that they were developing. And I just wish that I had done more of that. Clearing off my schedule, making sure that I have more time next time is definitely going to be good.
Yep, same thing here. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I wish that the other guys could have been able to make it. Maybe I'll be able to do something with them another time. But really, really appreciate it, Gus and EOTB and James and Oz. Oz started having some technical difficulties. His software did not want to let him in. His hardware did not want to let him in. So.
We love Oz. Oz has
Yes,
Oz has technical difficulties? What? No.
Inconceivable.
Yeah, it's unheard of. It's never happened.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. And if you're watching, please go check out the con. If you don't go, at least keep it on your radar and take it easy.
See you later, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to come on, Aaron.
Oh yeah.